Hello and welcome back everyone to another Telco's Get Technical podcast here at VMware. I'm your host Anupama Mahabhashyam, Senior Technical Product Marketing Manager. Severity 1 support requests with VMware incidents are critical issues that cause significant impact on customers' business operations such as service outages, severe performance degradation, billing system outages. Joining us today to explain more about how you can leverage VMware's expertise to prevent unexpected downtime is our esteemed guest, Issac Mazur, a senior staff solution architect in VMware's global support for telco organization. Issac has been instrumental in defining VMware solution support for global premier customers and CSPs, where he leads as a customer advocate for the service provider and edge business unit and serves as an escalation contact for the global support engineers. Welcome, Issac, and thank you so much for joining us in the session today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So can you give us a quick rundown of what Severity 1 incidents are?
Certainly. Yeah. So Severity 1 cases mean that the customer's production system or other mission critical systems are down and there's no application level redundancy or workaround that's immediately available. This could also mean that a substantial portion of the data on the back end is at significant risk of loss or corruption, or there's a loss of service or capacity. In this case, for telcos, this usually means that end user mobile calls are not going through, somebody can't call 911, then that's certainly going to be a Severity 1 type ticket. These can be caused by hardware failures, they can be caused by network misconfigurations, or they could even be a security incident.
So what are some of the common incidents that CSPs are facing today?
So typically we see misconfigurations cause a lot of issues. Most recently, we did have an incident where we dealt with a multi-vendor type situation, and that customer had a maintenance window, and they made a configuration change, and it took down their vSAN. And then at that point, that vSAN was hosting all of their management components, their vCenters and whatnot, and those went down and we had to assist with recovery. Another incident that I could think of is a vCenter upgrade where customer did not have a proactive ticket open. They went ahead and they were doing an upgrade and it failed at a specific portion, and we didn't have a reliable backup. So the VMware support team jumped on the call and we had to assist with recovering the vCenter and getting it back up and running so that they could manage their environment.
In the vCenter upgrade example you just mentioned, what steps could the CSPs have taken to ensure the upgrade was successful?
Typically in a vCenter upgrade scenario, you certainly want to have a MOP that's been outlined and been provided to VMware for review. So opening a Severity 5 ticket ahead of time, at least 10 days in advance, and sending that to the VMware engineers will give us time to review the plan and make recommendations for the steps you could take to ensure that your upgrade is successful. Usually what we see is validation of the backups is not always done properly, right? We know that you can go into the vCenter appliance VAMI and set up a backup schedule, and sometimes the data store is full, and so those backups aren't happening correctly. And so we like to see that you validate those backups, so in case something does go wrong, that we can quickly get the services back up and running with a recent backup and not one that's from a month or two ago.
So when you said MOP, you meant method of procedures, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So is it available for the customer CSPs to use?
So we have standard operating procedures, right? SOPs that are in just the regular VMware docs pages, and you can go to there and look at the step-by-step process for running an upgrade. A method of procedure when it comes to a specific environment is usually going to be written by the customer based on our public documentation, because there may be specifics about your environment that require additional steps that a standalone vCenter may not have.
Great. So with the CSP shifting towards cloud native operations, how do you anticipate these incidence trends changing?
So in the standard Severity 1 type situation with standard support, usually it's a product by product issue, right? And so you when you call in and you have a Severity 1 incident, SME jumps in the call and helps you resolve for that particular product. With these telco environments, we're seeing that these problems are becoming more complex because you have many more layers in the stack. And we're seeing it move more towards a war room style where you have to have all your vendors on a call together and collaborate. It's increasingly important to have good collaboration between all of those vendors so that we can restore service as opposed to just digging in and looking for a resolution of an issue. Restoring service is more important at the time you have a serious outage.
Okay, so you mentioned collaboration as a critical factor in incident resolution. Can you discuss the different ways customers can work with the VMware Global Support team to improve 7 incident resolutions?
Certainly, yeah. Collaboration allows for faster identification and resolution of your issues by leveraging the expertise of our VMware team, right? And sharing knowledge with us and ensuring that we have effective communication throughout the life cycle of a case, right? And as long as we're communicating and we're on these Zoom sessions and we're communicating via email, and everybody is aware of the updates and who's working on what, we can certainly improve the time that it takes to resolve Severity 1 incidents. Some of the important points there are you need to engage with your support services manager within global support. Your support services manager is there to help with these escalations, and if you're having issues with the timeline of a case, they can get the right engineer. They can help get additional resources for that engineer to be able to resolve the issue.
Okay, so for our listeners who may be struggling with reducing the number of 7 incidents and improving resolution times, have you considered using KB articles as part of your incident resolution process? Can you speak to the effectiveness of integrating KB articles into the incident resolution checklist itself?
Yes, KB articles are great for Severity 1 incidents, and I would certainly recommend that any customer look into the knowledge base site for VMware, both before and during a Severity 1 incident or any VMware engagement, right? These KBs are vetted and they're written with the history of a case that another customer had, right? So SRs are used for constructive feedback back into our business units, and we create KBs based on the cases that you create. So if you don't see a KB that exists for whatever issue you're having in any particular situation, you can ask the engineer if they can recommend a KB or if they can write a KB for you. The global support for Telco team has this seniority to be able to expedite those types of requests. We can write KBs and we can publish them.
That's wonderful to know about KB articles and ability for reaching out to VMware engineers. And then another aspect is about security. So we all know that security is a top concern for any organization using technology, including those using VMware products. So I'm curious, have there been any significant security incidents related to VMware products that the proactive services team has to tackle? If so, can you also describe how did you guys approach and resolve these incidents? So our listeners would really love to hear more about this.
Yeah, we do have security incidents that come in from time to time, and they typically take a slightly different path than your standard Severity 1 ticket. And that's because VMware wants to be And that's because VMware needs to be very cautious in handling these types of incidents. If it's a ransomware type situation, then we request that only live troubleshooting occur, and our engineers will jump on the call with a CSP, and they'll walk them through looking at logs and finding out where, say, the breach occurred, and if it was a VMware-related security vulnerability. We do publish security advisories from time to time, and you can sign up for those on the security advisories page at VMware.com. But we also publish telco-specific security advisories on recommendations for upgrades that we would say that are required for the telco stack. In these cases where it's not a VMware issue, we'll say that we want the security incident team at your company to engage and to set the guidelines for where we can assist with.
So as we come to the end of our conversation, can you give us some key takeaways about the benefits of Severity 5 proactive support request and what CSP should prioritize in building their teams for success?
Yeah, so Severity 5 cases are critical for the VMware support team to be able to understand what's going on in your environment. Severity 5 means that you're planning something in the future and you want our team to be aware so that in case a Severity 1 incident happens, we'll be on top of that. And this also lets us be able to see not only what's going on in the environment, but make recommendations based on your plan that you provide for that maintenance window or proactive service, whatever we're requesting through that ticket. So we ask that Severity 5 tickets be open at least 10 days in advance of any particular operation. Say you're doing an upgrade, say you are doing some network maintenance, right? We would ask that you'd have that in writing in a plan at least 10 days in advance, that you submit your documentation. And in those cases, we can review them and say, oh, you missed a step. Here's one thing that you should do in addition to what you currently have laid out so that you don't run into a Severity 1 incident when that time comes, and you don't have to extend that change window.
Issac, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your valuable insights on the importance of staying ahead of potential issues and how VMware's proactive services can help mitigate operation risk. So for listeners who want to learn more about opening a Severity 5 case with VMware, please check out the blog post on proactive services for proactive operations, which is linked in the podcast description.
Thank you very much for having me. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.